Using the new James Webb Space Telescope, I found I was spending far too much time looking at Uranus. So I decided instead to study the government COVID inquiry to see some of the almost human life forms that existed during the pandemic. If we were able to travel back in time, we might view the White Dwarf star known as Cummings. It emerged from the political Big Bang, otherwise known as Brexit. The Cummings star tends to emit dangerous misogynistic radiation, and female senior civil servants were often repulsed by it. If you listen carefully, you can hear the regular bleeping sounds broadcasters use to cover expletives emitted by Cummings. It's curious, because the supermassive star known as BoJo actually seemed to be a captive of the gravitational pull of Cummings, and was in orbit around it. Although the universe is about 13.8 billion years old, BoJo itself is still less than 60 years old, but is full of almost unimaginable amounts of hot air.
Yes, even government scientists like Patrick Vallance and myself were concerned by the presence of this hot air. This is because bodies containing so much hot air tend to be extremely unstable.
What's more, during the pandemic, whilst other bodies had to maintain a social distance, as it was then known, in the part of our galaxy known as number 10, different rules applied. Bodies tended to cluster together, attracted by mutual gravity. However, BoJo, as is typical of many supergiant stars, eventually swelled up and exploded in what is known as a supernova, a party to end all parties, if you like. All kinds of toxic matter were projected out into political space. The remnants can still be seen hanging around, even today. It's amazing, because if we peer ever deeper into the inquiry, we will catch sight of the supermassive black hole that is known as the Hancock. As is the way with supermassive black holes, the Hancock tended to consume any heavenly bodies that got too close for comfort. Amazingly, images of a heavenly body being consumed by Hancock were actually captured on CCTV. What is also interesting is that time itself actually slows down inside the black hole that is the COVID inquiry.
Yes, that is true. My theory of relativity shows how time will actually slow down inside a black hole like the COVID inquiry. Also, if we look closely, we can detect the presence of dark matter, otherwise known as lawyers.
Unfortunately, unlike outside the inquiry, this particular dark matter isn't counteracted by any dark energy, which means the inquiry may in fact go on for eternity. However, if we could travel at 99% of the speed of light into the distant future, we would be able to hear the results of the inquiry. But I'm sure that despite costing hundreds of millions of pounds, at the end of it all, politicians and civil servants will still say we need to learn the lessons, which, of course, they won't. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next week in Brian's Bigger Bang on BBC4.
And we have learned our lesson. And I want to conclude.
You can't expect human beings in an environment like number 10 to have, as it were, a invisible electrified fence around them. They will occasionally drift into each other's orbit.